All right, all right, all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. We are back with another great episode. As you guys, if you guys did caught the one previously, go to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you guys be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And of course, we bring in a hot guest to you live and direct. So if you guys have any comments, questions, leave them in the comment section. We'll be happy to answer those things. And I want to introduce my brother from another mother. He is the host of Men Are the Prize podcast. And he's a huge advocate for men's mental health, but not just men, black men, right? You know what I'm saying? Something that a lot of people don't really talk about. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my man, Harvey. How you doing today, brother? And welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Tony. I appreciate it. I am doing well. I am above ground. I am
Yes.
living. My family is good. So, I can't ask for much more than that. But thank you, Tony, for having me. I'm glad we get a chance to talk again. We are a
Yes.
part of a wonderful community. That's really kind of been my thing lately. Community, the people around us who keep us happy, who keep us grounded. So whenever we have an opportunity to reconnect, it's important that we do so. So thanks for having some time for me.
Yes, yes, man. And we've done a few things together, right? We've done each
Yes,
other's
man.
shows, and
Mhm.
you on my show again. We've done. Let's see, you was on the last year's. As a matter of fact, this last conference that we did, you hosted a couple of the table talks and things like that.
Yeah,
Beautiful
yeah.
things, man. We've had a lot of fun, right?
Yes,
You
sir.
know,
Definitely.
but like I said, we about to dive into a topic that that's just very dear to my heart and very much needed conversation.
Yes, sir.
Men's mental health,
Yes, sir.
right? You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? I've been seeing you advocating on all the social medias, like, hey, and therapy, right? You know what I'm saying?
Very
Therapy as
much
well. A
so.
lot of people don't even know it, don't even think about therapy.
Right.
So let's talk about Harvey's journey, you know what I'm saying? And getting to advocating and bringing this awareness to a much needed conversation and topic, men's mental health.
So, being a black man, of course, I didn't know much about my mental health. It's not a subject that is discussed much. It's
Right.
not something, mental health in general in our community
Mm,
is just starting to be accepted. We're
yeah.
just getting to the point where going to see a psychiatrist or getting therapy isn't seen as, oh, there's something wrong with you.
Mm,
And therapy is not just for something wrong with you, it's a space to express yourself. Life is hard. We deal with so much. And having somebody who can understand and listen with an unbiased ear, hear what you're talking about, and help you make better decisions and just think about life is such a good thing. But for some reason, this idea of psychology or psychiatry, all of a sudden, what's wrong with you? You don't need a psychiatrist. You're not crazy. Go see your deacon, go talk to your pastor, stuff like that. When we have things going on, sometimes we need a trained person who can listen to you, who can hear triggers, who can help you. And in
mm,
particular, for men in general, but as a black man, I can even speak to that. My story begins when I was 18. And I lived with my father, lived in my house, and then I kind of got just set out into the world. And I went to college and failed out. Mess, absolute mess. I came back home and I walked into the house as a I don't know, I got kicked out of college. I was a failure in every way. And
mm,
what I didn't get was somebody to tell me that's not the case. That was just one instance. I just failed out. That doesn't mean the end of the world. There's plenty of successful people who didn't make it through college, who didn't even go. But for me, I went, came back home, a complete disgrace. And I spent a good year slowly just sitting in the lack of self-esteem. I'm not good. I'm not good for anything. Nobody telling me I was good. I would just fell apart. Just month after month, day after day, feeling terrible about myself, not knowing what I'm going to do, not knowing if I can do anything.
mm.
Nobody was saying, listen, we know you messed this up. So what's next? What's the plan? No affirmation, no nothing. And I got to a point where I was so low that I tried to kill myself. Did it. I got close and I have a scar. It's on my wrist and I see it anytime life is low. And it's never that low where I'd even consider that. But it's a reminder that I got that close to a point where I almost wasn't here anymore
Right.
because I had no self esteem. And we men, since we don't talk about what's going on, we have a lot of people who don't even know that, who don't even know where you are, don't know that you're that low, don't know that you need to be spoken to, don't know that all I needed maybe was a hug that day so I can make it through the next. So I'm like, I'm 49 now. So 30 plus years have passed. And I know there are men my age now, my age back then, in between, who, since we haven't been taught to express ourselves, are just sitting in this negativity, sitting in this, I don't know what to do with myself. Nobody's going to like me. Nobody respects me. I'm not going to have a relationship. I'm not going to get this job. I'm not going to do anything. Why should I just be here? I should just end it. Right. So when I came up with this podcast, Black Men Are the Prize, Men Are the Prize is the podcast. Black Men is kind of who I talk to. Men Are the Prize is a space for men to be open, emotional, vulnerable, talk about what is going on. And for me, the podcast is a space for men to talk. It's not even about what you're talking about, but it's about talking. Because that's the first step. I got to get you, brother, to be able to tell me what's going on and feel comfortable doing it. And the way to make that work is for you to hear other men talking about their issues, about their struggles, about how they got out of it and how they're better now. Or if they're on that journey to get better, you can hear that. And then you can understand that you're not alone, that we're going through stuff. The man next door to you, who you probably haven't spoken to, probably feels the same way you do. The dude across the street, the guy you ball with, the guy at the job with you, we don't talk like that. And the more you hear other men talking, the more you realize that we are not alone in our struggle. Right. As Black men, we have specific struggles that we go through. As men, we have struggles. Add on the fact that I'm Black. Add on the fact that now I'm a criminal just because I am Black. Add on the fact that I apparently am, I'm a deadbeat dad because I'm a Black man, because I'm an abuser because I'm a Black man. All these things that get thrown at us.
Yes.
You don't have to deal with that stuff by yourself. So the podcast is a space to talk. And all this is just our mental health just being attacked. And we need to fight back, and we need to start taking care of ourselves. So that's a nutshell me. Yeah.
Yeah. See, and I love that you brought all of those different elements in, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you hit a lot of this stuff on the head. As Black men, society already labels us, right? We're I read a quote one time, and it said, when I walk into society, I'm already looked at as a weapon because of the color of my skin. Mm-hmm. So that brings, the concerns of police brutality, and I've watched many videos, right? Where, and nothing against my white counterparts, but it's a different life when when our Caucasian counterparts can go out there and do the things that we would normally do, right? And not have the worry of being shot, not have the worry of being dragged out of your car because of a speeding ticket, not have to, worry about being pepper sprayed because you asked, why am I being pulled over? Why are you stopping me? Being in our own home, in the comfort of our own home, without somebody coming kicking in the door. As a matter of fact, did you see the last video where the guy came out and they set him up? And the guy, the tow truck driver grabbed this man's car. This guy walks out, and the cops are already surrounding his house. This man came out and said, hey, and next thing you know, they executed him. And I was going, wow.
I don't have the heart to watch those anymore.
Brother, I caught it because I was going through YouTube, and then I wasn't trying to, but when I saw it, I went, that could have been someone I knew.
Definitely.
That could have been, that's somebody's son.
Yeah.
Somebody's father, somebody's husband, somebody's brother, uncle, cousin, friend that they've just watched. And the reason why I went through and I watched it, because being in the grief field, there's always things to learn from.
Yeah.
Right. And everything that you learn, it teaches you how to approach to be better in this line of work, to be more effective. And to know how to have those conversations, to adapt how you approach certain things. right? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And, talking with you, I'm thinking, that's another element, the mental health, when you see something like this, because now you think about the community.
Yeah.
What sort of impact does this have in the community after watching this young man get executed by the police? The same people that say we're here to protect and serve.
When I think about that, and I have a really strange way of thinking and looking at things. As a father, and when I talk to people, I'm a proud proponent of my children. 4 kids,
Yes.
3 daughters and a son. And when I think about them, I think about them in the present. They're walking around, they're happy, they're content, they're respectful. I feel like they're going to be great when they're out into the world. But I always look at it as a father, and I've been thinking lately about watching my children come into the world. And as fathers, we're here to take care of their kids, whatever it takes to do to make them better, to make life easier for them. But my last daughter, when she came into this world, she was born, and the next day she went to a NICU. And she spent a week there. And it occurs to me, it's a power struggle for me. I'm here to take care of my kids, and I have to do whatever I can to help them. But at that moment, there was absolutely nothing I could do. There is nothing more powerless. There's no less feeling of power than watching your child have a medical situation and there's nothing you can do. All I can do there, all I can do is watch. All I can do is look and hope for better. And then whenever those videos come up, one, they're just torture, because I don't like seeing anybody hurt. But when I see one of my own, Black men, just being abused or disrespected for nothing else than his hue, the amount of melanin he has in his skin.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't do anything about it at that moment. I hate watching there's a real good chance they're going to die. Something bad is going to happen to them. And all I can do is watch. All I can do, I am powerless. So for me, when I do the podcast, when I coach men and I talk to them, it's this opportunity to offer help, to talk about what you've dealt with in the past and to help you deal with it in the future. I'm trying to give you a sense of power. And every time I do that, talking to these men, it's because I know there was a point when something happened and there was nothing they can do about it. And they just took their self-esteem. Like, I didn't feel good to begin with, but now something is happening and I literally have no power and there's nothing I can do to fix it. So now when situations occur, because life is stressful, it always will be, being able to handle situations, being able to deal with the stuff that gets thrown at us is so important. The skills to deal with conflict, to deal with negativity, to deal with the workforce when you go there and you put your heart out and you work and you don't get the job and you know why, because somebody else did. To go out in there and try to walk up and maybe there's a woman you're interested in, you want to talk to her and you make that attempt and it doesn't work out. And we men, we're used to that. No, that's just part of trying to get with somebody. But there's these things that happen to us, and how do I deal with it? That's mental health. How do I deal with life? Because it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to feel powerless. What happens when it happens? What do you do when you feel bad? That's the key. I can feel weak. What do I do about it? I can feel like I can't fix a situation. What do I do about it? I can be mad at a situation. I can be mad when this cop has got this flashlight in my face and he's got his hand on his gun and I ain't done nothing. There's no gun in the car. There's no drugs in here. It's just my wife and my kids in the car and he's about ready to execute me just because I'm there. What do I do next?
Right.
That's mental health. That's how when you handle situation. And it doesn't mean it's always going to work. Things may happen, but it's not going to be because of you. So it's important. Power and the lack of power are two important things. How do I deal with being the man in the situation and how I treat the women or the other men and people around me? Or when I have no power, how do I deal with how I'm treated when I have no power? Mm-hmm. That's mental health. And when you can be strong enough to deal with things and take it as it comes and deal with it and then move on and then teach the next group, our kids, our daughters, our sons, our friends, when we can teach them how to do it, we're better off. And it's important that we pass on the experiences that we have. So that was a long-winded way to answer your question, but
No. I love that you went that route because the questions that I have, and I think the journey that you took me on right there, what I'm saying, that seems fitting. So in the Black community, as you mentioned before, there's such a huge stigma, and it hasn't really become a popular thing until recently, right? You know what I'm saying? To where Black men, Black women, what I'm saying, have started to really address the mental health issues that are going on in our communities, right? Without the
right,
stigma of saying you're crazy,
right,
right? You know what I'm saying? It's just recently, and we still have a long ways to go, but it's still just recently where, what I'm saying, Black men and women alike have decided, you know what, maybe I need therapy, right? You know what I'm saying? And
yep,
we're understanding the benefits of it. The one thing I do see when they do go into therapists and things like that, there's a huge gap in trust. There's a huge gap in trust, right? You know what I'm saying? And I see a lot of people in there with their phones. I
yep.
want to know if you tell me something, what I'm saying, that I have proof that this is what you just told me. So there's a huge trust issue there, you know. And I want to talk a little bit about that as well. But also, when you're talking with the men on your show and seeing the things that are going on in our communities and things like that, what are some of the most prolific challenges that you may hear that needs to be addressed as we move forward as a unit in our communities?
It's a great question. So when I talk to men, trust is such a huge word with
Yes.
us. And it obviously is a big deal for Black men, but our community in general. And quickly, you're talking about the medical field. And
Mm.
as we record right now, I jump on TikTok and I see things. And I don't know how much you're on there. I guess you would see. There's this an example. There's this white ER doctor. I don't know if you've seen him. And he's been
Yeah.
talking, and he put a video out, and he was like, he noticed that whenever he would have African American patients and he's trying to put together the history and their plan, they always had their phone out. And
That's
he
exactly
never
where I got that question from.
right, cool. And he never understood it. So and I think genuinely went on TikTok because he's a doctor and obviously it's a huge platform. And he asked, why is that? And of course, because it's TikTok and there's so much negativity that can be there, he got attacked.
Oh,
And a
they
lot of
drug him.
people, it got jumped. And people like, why don't you ask the patients? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I understand every side of that. I respect the fact that he put it out there. It's a good question. But I also understand the people that say, why are you asking us? You don't know us, but you knew the patient, you were in the room. And what I would say to that man is, thanks for asking. Also ask that person, because we're Black, but we're not a monolith. There could be different reasons why that person had their phone out or why this person had their phone out. We Black people do not respect, or we don't trust the medical field. It's been after us for years. They've used our blood, they've used our health, they've used our bodies. Why should I trust any doctor? And if I don't trust you, then I could say anything to you. And because you're the doctor, they're going to believe you over me. So I need somebody else. I need a witness, somebody to be listening to hear what I said to you and what you said to me. So if it ever goes down, I've got proof.
Right.
That's it is. And if you think about it, it's essentially the same thing we do with the police, with law enforcement.
Yeah.
We don't trust law enforcement. Law enforcement was here to push us down. Racism was legal in this country. They were allowed to sick dogs on us and to have the hoses on us. So why should I trust the people who were entrusted to hurt me, kill me, and then go home to their families? Why should I trust you for any of that? Trust is such a big thing. If we could trust our society, everyone in it, we'd be in a much better place. How many times have you heard a Black person, something's going on in their house? I want to call the police.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I know?
I deal with it myself.
I may not make it home. I may not make it out of my house. Somebody's in my house. It might be a Black person trying to rob me. I'm not calling the police. They may come in, see a Black person, me, and shoot me.
Yeah.
Trust.
How many times have that happened, right?
So many times. And that's terrible when you think of trust, which is why. So then, and I've been talking about this lately, when it comes to getting a therapist, especially for men, We have so many hurdles we have to deal with. One, the mere fact that I decide I'm going to get a therapist, I'm going to talk to somebody is a huge step. Huge step. Our culture, we're getting to the point where it's accepted. But most of the time, it hasn't been for a long time. So I'm going to get a therapist. Got it. Now, who am I going to talk to? How do I find the right therapist? And we also have this idea that the first therapist that we find, that's the one. That's so far from the truth. So far from the truth. If you're going to have somebody, if you're going to sit in the room and talk to somebody and open up and be vulnerable and let them in on everything that's going on, you need to respect that person. And there's a real good chance that that first person, that second person, hell, that third person isn't the one. And it's not because they're not good at their job. They're just not good for you. I need to relate to that person. I need to trust that person. I just did a podcast with a brother who is a therapist. Fantastic. And I can't wait for the episode to drop. But I was talking to him about the men that I talked to. And I just relayed one story back. Brother had found a therapist. And the brother's Black. And the therapist is white. He pulled into that office like 10 minutes late, 10, 15 minutes late. He walked in. He apologized. I apologize. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be late. As I was driving here, there was a cop behind me. I slowed down. I didn't want to get stopped. I didn't know what was going on. Any Black man would have been like, I feel you. I understand that. That therapist was like, why? What were you worried about? What was your concern? What are you talking? At worst, you would have just gotten a ticket. And at that moment, that brother, he's like, I'm done. He broke out. And I understand that completely. There's nothing wrong with that therapist. I'm sure he is fine. He just doesn't relate.
Right.
He doesn't get it. I could not trust somebody who doesn't understand my experience.
Yes.
And that's what that was.
Yeah. And you know what? And it's crazy because, I just partnered with a deaf doula organization, right? And they were like, how do we get through the BIPOC and POC community? I said, you don't see, you don't understand. Like when it comes down to end of life care, you know what I'm saying, and the way that we're treated, we're mistreated. We are mistreated. So let me do something, and I'm gonna need your help to do it. And this is and they were so wonderful. They were like, yeah, whatever we need to do. I said, let me put together a program to help certify more BIPOC and POC communities. Because in order for us to get the care that we need to be able to advocate for ourselves. Now the problem is that when you see somebody that looks like me walk into a place that we're full of people that don't look like me, they already have misjudged me. They're not going to give me the chance. So I said, what if we could certify the BIPOC and POC community and you become a white ally to help us get into the door so we can advocate? Because if you're in the same room as me, they're going to not kick me out of the room as easily and give me a chance to be able to advocate. Now, when we talk about allies and things like that, yes, I think it's important to have those allies, right? Just like when it comes down to the police, protests and things like that. We already know that, when it comes down to it, they're not going to kill them first. But if it was us on the front lines, they already look at us as a threat.
Right.
They're not going to ask questions. They're not going to go, hey, back up and this, that, and other. They're not going to let us peacefully protest. They're going to go, sick the dogs on them. Shoot them. Yeah. Use lethal weapons, not less lethal weapons. Get out the tear gas. Let's disperse this. If you need to use force, you can do that, right? Now, with that being down, that's one aspect of it, right? But also looking our communities and things like that. And I made this comment probably about a year or so ago, and I was talking with a young lady, and she goes, she had asked, she goes, well, let's go down to the communities and 5 points and things like that, and bring these programs to our youth and to the people already down there. I said, well, I can't do that. And she looks at me. She goes, why not? I said, see, I don't trust the people in my own community.
Mm.
She
Mm.
goes, why not? I said, because everyone who's ever tried to kill me looks like me. Everyone who's ever tried to hurt me looks like me.
Mm.
Now, and I say that to say this, right? You know what I'm saying? As true of a statement that is, I felt messed up inside to have to say that about the people in my own community.
Right.
But if you talk to the elderly that have been robbed, ask them what they look like,
Mm-hmm.
people in our communities.
Yep.
If you ask the women in our communities who hurt you, it looks like the people in our community. And I'm thinking to myself, well, at some point, how can we change the dynamic to where it's not such, because when you can't trust the people in your own community that looks like you, it makes it hard to trust the people who don't look like you, right? You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that leaves you in a world of being defensive all the time. I have to defend myself to keep you from hurting me. I don't know what your intentions are.
Mm.
If I walk home, are you going to try to rob me, kill me, or rape me?
Mm.
Right? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
drug dealers that are in our neighborhoods look just like us. And if
Yes,
they
sir.
don't care about us, then that leaves us in a battle of that we're fighting alone. Mental health, therapy, all of these different things. So I'm thinking, you know what I'm saying, looking at this challenge, how can we as a BIPOC and POC community get past that to start to bring us back together and realize that together we're stronger, because right now we're so divided and it doesn't take much to divide us. When you think about what's going on in Chicago, you got people jumping out with guns about as big as a 16-year-old, and they shooting up cars that people that look like us, right?
Yeah. That's a profound statement, and it's true, and it's whenever when we hear about crime, one thing we always need to remember that crime is really about proximity. It's not about whom, it's about who I'm close to. So whenever
Mhm.
somebody's talking about black on black crime, whatever, why don't our crime same? White people who do whatever, do it who's there. So they're
Yeah,
around white people. We're separated. So of course, black people are going to kill black people and white people are going to kill white people. That's who you're around. That's who you're with. And that's just a struggle that every group has to deal with.
mhm.
What we have to do is, it sucks. What we have to do is work with, I think we have to work with our youth. It's we want to try to protect those who are around, but we need to figure out how to educate the kids coming up so that that mindset doesn't stick there, so
Right,
that they grow up having a sense of self so they can go and try to do something for themselves. And sometimes in some communities, it's hard to get out. It's hard to
right,
get out of that location. It's hard to get out of that mentality. It might be something you've just grown up with in your family. But we need to take care of ourselves. There's always going to be bad people, no matter what. And
right, right.
sadly, that's something we're going to have to deal with. There's people we're going to have to deal with. And a lot of times, because we're so separated, those bad people are going to look like us. And we need to learn to protect ourselves, but also enrich ourselves and get better and help the people around us, the children who are growing up, the teenagers who are around us, the men who are around us, and why you don't want to do this and why you can do this instead. And we know what crime is. Crime is a response to a bad situation.
Right.
I'm poor. I don't have food. I don't have money. And then you add drugs and such into it. Those are the other things, the more obvious things we need to fix.
Mhm.
If we can take care of drugs in our neighborhoods, crime would drop. If we can talk to men and learn and teach them how to treat our women better, then violent attacks, rape, and sexual assault, that stuff will drop when it comes to our women. There's things that we need to do in our community that once we grow and become figureheads in our community, we have to step up and we have to start taking care and teaching and helping and learning also. So what you said is true. It's a hard pill to swallow because it's easy to blame other people.
Yeah,
We're in it too. We have a lot to do with our struggles,
yeah.
and maybe we focus on the problems that we have and then work our way out.
And that's what I was thinking too, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that was great. I love that you said that because so are you familiar with Charleston White?
The name sounds familiar.
So he's a youth advocate as well, right? But the guy he's blowing up the internet, right? You know what I'm saying? He speaks the truth, but you know what I'm saying, he's also a comedian, and
Right.
some of the things he may say may rub people the wrong way, but he's bringing a lot of truth to the table.
Mhm.
And one of the things when I first started watching him, he said something. He goes, see, I'm that guy. If I come out and see you selling drugs on the corner, I'm going to call the police on you. And people go, well, is that snitching? He goes, no, it's not snitching. It's me keeping my neighborhood safe from people like you because you're doing more damage in the community, right? He goes, and I encourage the youth to do it as well. Because you got to remember, the youth is the pathway to our future. And if we're not taking care of them, if we're not getting rid of the people that's doing the damage, you know what I'm saying, then we're just contributing to um, the damage that's being done.
Right.
And so I started thinking about when you started saying that, I'm thinking to myself, like, I actually understand that right now, right? You know what I'm saying? How do you encourage the youth to go out there and say, you know what? I don't want you selling drugs in my corner no more. I don't want you, you know what I'm saying, out here shooting at my friends anymore, shooting at my family members anymore. I'm call the police on you.
Mhm.
I'm going to make it known because if they know that the youth is out here calling the police that to keep people from selling drugs and shooting on the corner, right?
Mhm.
You know, and one of the questions that was asked when he said that it was that, well, how do you keep the people that you're doing this to from retaliating? He goes, tell them enough of them, they know not to mess with you, because if you're doing it, and you know what I'm saying, it helps the community start to look out for one another, right? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And if they see you coming over there trying to hurt them, somebody else is going to be on the phone too. So it's a way to utilize and hopefully build and bridge that gap between law enforcement and our communities, so they actually understand that, hey, you work for us. We don't work for you. You don't get to come over here and kill us. And if we call you, that means that you come over here and you do your job, not come over here and escalate and take things out of proportion. But there's always another side to that story as well, right? You know, because if we think about the damage that has been done throughout the years from, you know, and the systematic racism that's incorporated into our law system, our judicial system, Jim Crow law,
Right.
right? You know what I'm saying? That's still a huge thing. The pipeline that goes from certain schools straight to the jails and prison systems,
Right.
you know, and that just lets us know that we still got a lot of work to do. But
So
the
much so.
damage, and
Mhm.
I don't think really, you know, and we touched on this, right? The damage that is being done um, to our mental health through the traumas from seeing our brothers and sisters being handcuffed, beat up, you know, shot, tased, just mistreated along the way. You know what I'm saying? For crimes that, and I hate to say it this way, but crimes that our white counterparts would normally get a ticket for,
Right. Yep.
right? And so then we add that into the mental health factor, the distrust, and how we struggle as communities. How do we teach our youth through the struggles that we're going through and empower them to be better moving forward? Maybe they can teach us too, right?
Mhm. It's, in my humble opinion, as just one person, it's, we send our kids out to school to learn, to become intelligent people, to have that great job, to live a wonderful life. And there you'll get the book learning and all that at school, but what we teach at home is really the important thing.
Mm.
We need to teach a sense of pride. We need to teach our children that they are valued, that they are
Mm.
loved, and that they deserve to live in a world where they're not dangerous or where they're not seen as dangerous. We need to let them know that what happens out, excuse me, to let them know what happens out there, how they're seen by those people out there doesn't define them. What defines them is how they act and how they go about living their lives. I have the benefit of three beautiful daughters, three intelligent, beautiful daughters. And it is my job, along with my wife's, to make sure that we teach them how to treat themselves, to understand how valuable you are.
I love that.
How important you are. And it's not, and I'm biased, I have three gorgeous daughters without question, but that's not what defines you. That's just extra. You are super intelligent. You're empathetic. You are respectful to people. And on top of that, you're beautiful too. We need to teach them that. I have a 19-year-old son. You are a strong man. You're an intelligent man. You're out there in the world. It's important that you recognize how people see you in the world, especially as a Black man. But that doesn't define you. That's just that's just what you deal with when you step out of this house. Understand you, understand your intelligence, how respectful you are to everybody around you, how protective you are of your sisters, your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, all that stuff. We need to create good people and send them out into the world. And I think that's what we do in this community. We raise these kids, go to school, do something great. But the mistake that we're making at times is that we're not including mental health in that education from the home. I think, raise our girls to be emotional and to talk about whatever, but we raise our boys to be stoic, strong, rub some dirt on it, keep it moving, and just go out into the world. And a lot of the issues that we talk about with crime and such, the vast majority of crimes are committed by men. So what we have is a bunch of men out there who are committing crimes for a multitude of reasons. Addiction, maybe they're just a criminal. Maybe that's a possibility, but maybe something's going on. Maybe there's a struggle. Maybe there's something that's been going on that I haven't been allowed to talk about for years. And the only outlet is just to do something stupid because I don't know any better. Or because it seems like somebody told me that was the way to go and I don't know better.
Right.
We need to take time and we have to raise these kids, raise these people, and make sure that self-esteem is a part of it. Expressing yourself is a part of it. Understanding the people around you, empathy, and all the stuff around you, but making sure that we send good people out into the world so we minimize the criminals that we have into the world. But we also are able to understand that the people around us are going through things. And when we can look at those people and see their struggle and see how they're doing their best to fight, to get out and do whatever, then we can sit there and look at them with a different eye. That's just not a bad person. That's a person who might need some help. And that's how you build a strong community. Because I don't look at some homeless person as some bad person or whatever. I look at them as a person who could use help. And maybe I'm the one. I could feed you literally or figuratively. There's a way, and we can do it. And it's a long, drawn-out process. It's step by step, child by child, family by family. But the better we do with each other and the families around us, our neighbors, our coworkers, our friends, the more we do for each other, the better we all are. And that's just going to extend. That's just going to branch out into the world. A bunch of good communities make a good city, make a good state, a good country, a good world. It's imperative that we start at home. And we start with each other. And mental health needs to be really a focus of that. When I can talk about what's going on, then there's less a chance of me doing something stupid when I'm a teenager. Right. We have to make being emotional, being vulnerable, a huge part of how we raise our kids. And when we do that, we'll be better families and we will have better men too.
I love that, man. I definitely love that because, I was thinking along the same lines, but also, like what are some of the other things to be added inside of there? And the one thing I started thinking about was we both come from the Gen X generation. Right. You know what I'm saying? A lot of, if you ask us, it was probably the best generation around. We was,
of course it was.
We was free. We was out there. We're old enough. We're older than Google, right? You know what I'm saying? But we had to go into dictionaries, and things like that. And we look at parents who raised us, the boomers, right? And we think about what some people may consider abuse these days. These were regular things in our world. But if we look back on it now, could it have been considered abuse? A lot of
Sure.
ways, yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
The way that they talked to us, the way that we were easily dismissed. Oh boy, get out my face! I'm out here playing cards.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, going outside and play. I'm in here playing dominoes. Or if you had family like I did that had shot house, boy, this ain't no place for no kid while they sit up there taking a shot of gin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we go down, we go out with our friends. You know, we were left to our own demise. So, you know, saying they're not wanted to get hurt. So again, we were taught a different way of maneuvering through life. But now I say that to say this. We learned how to get along. We learned how to stand up for each other. We learned the value of our elders, of community, right? You know what I'm saying? Because we were able to go to our neighbor's house. You know, I grew up pretty poor, right? We just go to our neighbor's house. Can we get a, you know, get a can of green beans or something like that? We get you at the beginning of the month because, you know, that's when food stamps was, 1st and the 15th, right?
Right.
We learned how to look out for one another. We learned not to take things not so personally, right? You know what I'm saying? But with a grain of salt and have wit about us. But I now, you know, think about that with the question of, was mental health as huge a thing, although it wasn't spoken about by then, and just because there's more awareness and more openness about it, was it just because we didn't speak about it that it wasn't a very prominent thing, or was it just something that we didn't, you know, wasn't a big deal with us?
It wasn't. You know what? For me, I think back then, I don't know, the mental health issue felt like it wasn't dealt with professionals. It was dealt with religiously, honestly.
Yeah.
My pastor, my deacon, all the issues I'm having, talk to them, because we're, you know, our community, we're very religious. I'm not a religious person at all. So I feel like with a lot of the issues that were dealt with, God will take care of that, or this is why this is going on. This is God's plan and stuff like that. So I don't know if the idea of psychiatry was like, or mental health discussions were against the plan that was happening. And everything that meant to happen, your actions, what you did was planned beforehand. So I don't know about that, but I think we leaned on God as opposed to leaning on any other help or any other issue. What I think we've gotten to now is that we have so many issues. We're now so introspective. Why do we do this? Why does this happen to people? Can we solve this issue? Why is this happening? Now we're like, there are issues, there are problems. People say things because people act because. Now we put titles to stuff. Now it's ADHD. Now it's toxic masculinity. Now it's depression. We didn't really have that stuff before, but now that we think that there are things that are happening and we think there's a title and we think there's a reason. And now, and that took a while for it to get to us. It's been out there. There's been talk about, you know, mental health issues for, I think, honestly, for our white friends. But it finally got to the point where, okay, Black men are doing things, Black families are doing things that that they shouldn't. And why is that? What's the problem? And finally, we had to look. We can't. The Bible, unfortunately, doesn't solve every problem. It doesn't have the answers. I need to figure out now what's up. Why am I doing this? Why does my son do this? Why do we get treated like this by the police and whatever? What do I do? What are the effects of the treatment that I get every day? Why do men have midlife crises? Why is there such a large, increase in Black men attempting suicide? What's happening? What do we need to look at it? And it's this great book doesn't have the answers, and we need to figure it out, and we need to decide, or at least decide to try and fix things. And That's what it is. We have questions. We want to live in a better world, and we need answers.
Yeah.
And mental health, at least the discussion of it, kind of leads us into, okay, this is why he does this or she does this. And even if it's not right, this is why they do this. Okay, what can we do to fix it? We want to be better, right? We want to improve, even if we find the wrong answers, but we're going to try to improve. And mental health is one good thing. That is the right answer. It's got things. You can look at data. That's why people do this. That's why this is what happens. The same people in the same neighborhoods, the same problems, the same drugs, they do this same thing. And if we deal with the underlying effects, we'll be better. And that's why I think mental health is finally coming in, and why it's in here. We want to live. We want to live. We want to live better.
Yeah, and I think that's, you brought up a few interesting topics, because I'm right there with you. I'm not a very religious person. We've talked about this before.
Right.
I respect everybody and what they believe or what they don't believe. You know what I'm saying? I do what works for me and what makes me a good human being. And I'm like, hey, whatever you believe or what don't you believe, as long as it makes you a good human being, I'm all for it. Right? If it encourages you to go out there and be the best human being in the world, I'm all for it. Who am I to judge? I don't care. Right? You know what I'm saying? Now, if it makes you a bad human being, that's what I'm like. Maybe you should try something different,
Right.
And when it comes down, and everybody's different. When it comes down to the Bible, I think that's where I have my problem at, right? Because everybody's like, the answers are in here. No, they're not. The answers aren't. You know what I'm saying? The one thing that you can relate to across the board when it comes down to a lot of those stories inside of there, depending on what you're reading and what you take from it, it can be a great blueprint. It can be a great guideline to live a good life, or however you want to, right? Or it can be a tool of destruction as well, right? We think about it. The one group out here that has caused more problems in the world than anything else, the KKK, and they swear by the Bible. Now I look at that in the Black community, and I go, so you're using the one thing that they've used to destroy us to uplift us. Are we reading the message differently here? Because from what I understand, they've changed not only, the color of said people, but they've also changed the message of said people. It's been rewritten too many times, right? And when we think about religion, and this is the reason why I have a problem with religion, because it's hard for me to believe in something that I've seen separate so many people. First. Secondly, most of the people that have ever done me wrong is the so-called religious people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think about my mental health when it comes down to that. There's a huge trust issue when it comes down to that. That's why I speak the way that I do. I go, hey, you do you and I do me. You know what I'm saying? I have no problems with you doing you. I'm going to go ahead and do me, And then when we talk about mental health, and we see the rise in suicides in men. And I think about when I was a child, it's very seldom that it happened. Very seldom that it happened, right? Yeah, it was happening, but not at the rate that it is now. And we look at the youth, and I think our youth is committing suicide at a rate that I've never seen before. Now, we as men and as parents, as community members and leaders, how do we curb this thing? How do we let our youth know that, we're here for them? Because at some point as parents, I think we forgot that we're the parents and they're the children. Our job is to help mold them, give them something to help them become stronger, but also to teach them to live in a world without us, so they have a sense of independence and drive.
If I had the answer to that question, brother, I'd be just in a just a bed of cash, just like floating around, just swimming in it, because it's very much the answer to many of our problems. The
Right.
best we can say, and there's no real answer because there's some great parents out there. I consider myself
Yeah,
one
yeah.
of them. And we can do our absolute best to teach our kids. But the best we can do is prepare them for life. And then
Mhm.
we, at some point, then we got to send you out and got to see how you handle it. So being present,
Mhm.
when I mean present, not just in the house, but present. I'm in your life. I know what's going on. I know what you're listening to. I know what you're watching. I try to do my best to keep up with your life and be present and to teach. And one of the hardest things to do is while we raise our kids and we don't want them to make mistakes. We want them to go through life and we'd love it to be easy, but it's not. And we know it. Maybe the hardest thing to do as a parent is allow failure, is to allow mistakes, to allow a child to go in that wrong direction, to do something we know they shouldn't do. And we can try to tell them, but sometimes you got to let them mess up. And then
Mhm.
what we can do as parents is be their backbone, is to be there when they fall. And then we can talk about it. All right, now we talked about this. I told you not to spend this money. I told you not to do this. I told you that how important your credit is going to be as you grow. And you got this card and then you maxed it out. And we talked about it. And you didn't listen. Now what?
Mhm.
Now we admit the error. Now, how do we correct it? Or how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? We learn from our mistakes. That's what we're really here for. We're here for guidance.
Yeah.
As parents, I'm here to lead you in the right direction. And most of the time, you're going to follow my guidance. But the older you get, the smarter you think you are, the more you think you know, when in actuality, the less you know. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to lead you in that direction. And I'm like, don't do this. I'm going to say it one more time. Don't do this. Okay, you did it. Now what? So the key is to teach, to enrich, to improve, and we do that when we're here. We do
Mhm.
that when we are in their circle, when we are around, when we are supportive, when we are empathetic, and more importantly, when we never forget that 20 or 30 years before we were that kid. And we didn't listen to our parents either. And we made the same dumb mistake that they did. And our parents did the same and such and such.
Yeah.
So we can be annoyed. We know we told you not to do this, but guess what? I didn't listen either. I can relate to my child that way. You shouldn't have done that. And I know, listen, and you did it anyway, but I can be upset, but I can only be as upset as, wow, I did that too.
Right.
So I can relate to my child. I can help him. I can do my best to make sure she's in a good spot, but to be there when they fall and show them how to get up
Yeah.
as opposed to pulling you up. But I can show you how to get up. And then you go out into the world and you're a good person, you're a better person. And that's really all we can do because we control our environment, our circle, our family. My kids are good. My neighbor, his kids are good. That neighbor, her kids are good. Cross the street, they're good. They all come out, they go out. And we're better people in jobs, in law enforcement, as doctors. All those people get out there and we're just better in general.
Mhm.
And parents, we're the most important people because we are churning out kids.
Yeah.
And who are we putting out? Are we putting good people out? Or are we doing the best that we can to make sure that they are going to be good people and then they're going to bring good people into the world? I
Mhm.
wish there was a better blueprint, but in the
This
end,
is true.
that's what we control. We control who we're putting out into the world.
See, I think I would have been. I'm messed up, man. I'm messed up, right? You know what I'm saying? Because here's where that humorous side of me. Listen to that. I'm thinking about my son, right? Because I was looking forward to watching how he messed up, right? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Not so I could get upset, not so I could criticize him, but I am a bit of a prick, right? And I'm being honest. Look, I'm
I
being
hear
honest
that, bro.
because I teach him these things, right? And if he would have went out there and did that, I would have never scolded him. But I would have been like, "So how's that working out for you? Did you learn something from that? Like,
Mhm.
what you want me to do? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
okay, what do you want me to do?" Now, I also look forward to being a part of his first heartbreak.
Mm.
not
Mm,
so that I can give him advice to how to maneuver through it, because that's something that he would have to figure out, right? You know what I'm saying? But I want to
yeah,
make sure that I'm there
it's
to go,
important. Hmm.
yeah, to go, hey, what is it that you need from me?
Mm.
Right? You know
Especially
what
as a
I'm saying?
son. Yeah,
Especially
especially
as a
when it's
son,
a
right?
son.
You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
my God.
Because
Yeah.
we're hard headed. I was hard
Hmm.
headed, just like he would have been hard headed as well, right? But I am again. I was that dude. I'm looking forward to it. The first time you steal your first piece of candy, I'm going to scold you. First time you go to jail, don't call me.
Mm.
You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Not saying
Yeah.
that he's going to do it. I'm just saying, hey, when you go to jail for stealing that piece of candy, don't call me.
Hmm.
You're gonna need to sit there and think about what you just did,
Right.
because you know why? When you get out, I guarantee you're not going to want to do it again. And if you
Mm.
do, well, you might want to go to prison because you can't be here,
Mm.
right?
That's
These
him.
are hard lessons to learn. Like, I'm
Yeah.
here to teach you to live in the world without me,
Hmm.
right? You know what I'm saying? So at some point, I have to let go the reins
Yes, you do.
and go, I want to see what you do next.
Mhm.
Now,
Especially when it comes to heartache, especially that
yeah,
first, if it's a heterosexual relationship, the first time, and it's big because how we treat our women is such a big
uh-huh,
part of life. That
uh-huh,
first time, and I think with relationships, the view is skewed. It's like men are really we're the problem in almost everything. So what you can that's at least how that's what it feels like. Everything
yeah, it
is us.
does.
Right. So what you get is if you get that son and he gets his heart broke, the road that he takes after that is incredibly important. Does he
Exactly.
can he sit there and be like, you know what? I was young. This was my first girlfriend, but you were like 13 or 14, maybe 15, and you in high school, and all these girls look cute. So you had this girlfriend, but there was some other cheerleader that you liked and you wanted to talk to her, and you did something stupid and you cost yourself your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So now I got to sit down with you. Like, I know you're hurt, but first of all, I'm sorry you feel this way. I'm gonna acknowledge how you feel because you're allowed to feel that way. And however you need to express that hurt, that's okay. You're a man,
Yes.
you're a boy, you're allowed however you want. Now,
Yes.
did you bring this on yourself, bro? Did you
Yeah.
do this? You can't do that. You know, situations are going to happen where sometimes something happens to us and sometimes we happen to people. And
Yes.
maybe you caused this. What happened? What went wrong?
Yes.
This is what went wrong. You understand what happened? Do you understand how you feel after this went wrong?
Yes.
What'd you learn from the situation? Or you in this situation, young, dating this girl. Oh my God, love of my life. I loved her. And she sort of the quarterback of the football team, and she left me for him, and my heart broke. Okay, I know how you feel. I acknowledge it. You are hurting. I get it. However you want to express it, you do so.
Mm-hmm.
Were you the reason? No, I was nice. I was respectful. I bought her stuff. We hung out, blah, blah, blah. But she didn't like me enough. Okay, that happens and it may happen again. Not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. You are a good kid. You're good people. This situation didn't work out. We don't
Mm-hmm.
take this as a slap to our self-esteem. You are not a bad person. You are a good person. That person made a mistake.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that the next girl you meet is going to make that same mistake or is going to treat you
That's
that way too. So it is
exactly.
important that I'm like, okay, all right, that was just a bad one. She not the bad. The next one may not be bad. And the one bad thing about love is that to really get into it, you kind of have to throw your heart out every time and
Yeah.
hope for the best every
Yeah.
time. And I got to be like, listen, I know that one hurt, and I know you may not want to give a shot again. You have to. And I can't promise you that this other girl won't step on you again. This time she may have spikes on. It might hurt even more, but you
Mm.
got to do it. And I can't even promise you that the girl after that won't do something even more nefarious. But when it comes to that, that's a good big part about how you deal with life.
Yeah.
Because in terms of love,
Yeah.
you don't know what you're going to get. You're throwing your heart out there, hoping somebody nice catches it. But you
Exactly.
don't know you don't know if that person is nice, right?
Man, they don't know, right?
Yeah. The
And,
question is, how do I deal with it?
well, I think it like, and I'm only speaking from experience before we begin to wrap this thing up. But I used
Right.
to always tell my son, I go, listen to people like Inky Johnson, Les Brown, ET, all of these motivational speakers. I listen to their stories, the tragedies, the challenges, and the inspiration of how they became who they are. And I always tell my son, I used to always tell him, after listening to Inky Johnson, I go, look here, baby boy. Life is going to throw you curveballs. It's going to knock you down. It's just a part of life, right? Now, here's the fun part about it, or the interesting part about it. You're going to be defined at what you do in those moments of hardship, challenge, and opposition. Are you going to sit there and throw your hands up and submit? Are you going to look at it, learn from it, stand back up, put your head up high, and take the next step to becoming a better version of yourself? So, you know what I'm saying? If you don't want to be judged for being this over here, then become the better version of yourself. And I think it sets them up for the future, you know what I'm saying? The heartbreaks, the friendships, and things like that, the challenges of having good friends, because we both know, you know what I'm saying, everybody that you run across don't have the best intentions for you, right? You know what I'm saying?
True.
So what do? You pay attention to what they do, because whoever they are, they're telling you when you first meet them. So if a person is a thief, you know not to leave nothing around them. If a person is a killer, you know not to turn your back around this individual, and so forth, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You just have to be mindful up here. You have to be thoughtful and show up every time.
Right.
Now,
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? And those are the lessons that I was teaching my son. And that's why I say I'm a bit of a prick when it came down to it, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? If he would have had his first heartbreak, because I would have never coddled him.
Right.
And I wouldn't have ever intervened in the process of who he was becoming. But what I would have done is that I would have sat back. I'm still there for him, but I'm not going to interfere, because I need to see, as a father, who he is in these moments. And that's going to determine who he's going to show up in the world as.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? What are the next steps? Are you going to become bitter or better? Are you going to learn from this lesson and learn how to forgive? Or are you going to hold a grudge? You know what I'm saying? Are you going to take this out on the next woman? Because now this is when I intervene. When I see you taking it out on them, that's when I come in and go, hey, no, we don't do that. We don't contribute to what the world is going to do to us. Right? Not in the negative way, but we contribute in a positive way. And I think that's part of the mental health, you know what I'm saying, that we have to allow our kids to go out into the world and go, you know what? I'm going to show up. I'm going to show up because of the lessons that my father taught me, the lessons that my mother taught me, the lessons that the good people in my community taught me. I'm going to show up as the best version of myself every day.
Yes, sir.
Because I represent my family. I represent the teachings of my father and his father, and so forth and so forth. It has nothing to do with anybody else, because every time you step out, you represent this family. Because when I'm gone, they're going to look to you for guidance.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And I think, you know what I'm saying, like what you said, Harvey, you know, and I appreciate you saying that and everything, but because you're teaching your children to show up, right? To be better versions of themselves, to work on their mental health, to go, you know what, I have a problem. Or, you know what I'm saying, I see this as a potential challenge. I need to develop some skills. I need to go to therapy to recognize where the challenges are, right?
Yeah.
But also have a sense of trust to the people that they're around, and having discernment and choosing the right people to be around. And that's where I get from what you tell me about your children, man. And I just go like this, man. That's what it's about right there. That's definitely what it's about, because, you know what I'm saying, the man itself, you know what I'm saying, I got a lot of respect for you. You already know this, brother. You know what I'm saying? You already know.
Likewise, sir. Likewise.
Yeah. So, you know, before we get off, I always ask people, how can people find you? And, you know what I'm saying, when do your podcast air? Where can they find it? And if you can leave the audience with something, what would you leave them with?
Right. First of all, thank you for talking with me. I appreciate the time.
Listen,
It's always wonderful to reconnect with you. You can find, now I have a few podcasts. So I have one with my wife, Love is Black. That's me and my wife. We 5 years deep in the podcast, 15 years in the marriage. We first 4 seasons are just talking about our relationship, how we got together, and we talk to other couples. Black love is a beautiful thing in every form, in just romantic relationships, in parent to child. And we want that to be seen in the positive light. So if you want to listen to that, you can go to, it's simple, loveisblackpodcast.com. That's me and my wife, Carice. We just talk. And right now we've been writing a book. We're writing a Black love story. That's what we've been doing this season. So season 5 is a Black love story that we've been writing. We switch off week to week. She writes one, then I write one. We've been having fun with that. And for me, if you want to hear, and so after we started doing that one, then I slipped into doing Men Are the Prize because I wanted to do something for men. If you want to find that podcast, and we are just in the early parts of season 3, harveylaguerre.com. That's where you can find my podcast, and that's where you can find on my socials and such. I've predominantly, it was supposed to be men, but the more I've done this podcast, the more I realize that having women in here talking with us and hearing that voice, it's important. I've had 2 episodes so far. That's how young we are into this season. The first episode was Dr. Patrice N. Douglas. She is a therapist who specializes in Black male trauma. Like that's the conversation we need. She was wonderful. We were just talking about, it's important to know that we have our struggle, but it's better when we know the people around us understand. Mm-hmm. And there's nobody who understands better what a Black man is going through than that Black woman. And then she's trained. That's what's up. So that was wonderful. I had Michael Peoples. He was my second one. That episode just dropped on Saturday. He is a motivational speaker for high school students and college students. He's wonderful. Go to my website. You can watch those first 2 episodes. Like I said, this is season 3. If you go into season 2, I went hard. I did 50 episodes. Every Saturday, an episode drops. And season 2, at some point, brother named Tony Lynch is in there. And we had and we talked. And it was a powerful discussion. We're talking about grief and such. And that's why I wanted to have him on here, because if we're talking about emotions that we men go through, grief is there. And your ability to talk about what you've gone through in your life was an important discussion and one of my most watched ones. So you were wonderful. So I'm so glad I got a chance to talk with you. Every Saturday, 6 a.m., harveylaguerre.com. You can catch my episodes. This season is going to be fun. I'm going to have a few women on. We're talking about everything. We talk about masculinity. We talk about sexuality, and we talk about mental health. And finally, I end every one of my episodes with this because I'm talking to men predominantly. There is a steep rise in attempted suicide for men in general, Black men also. And what I want to let every man know who is watching is that your presence is so needed. There is somebody right now who's waiting to talk to you today, who's probably having a bad day, but oh my God, such and such is about to call me and life is going to be good. Somebody's sitting somewhere, they're waiting for you to walk in. You're going to make somebody's day better. Somebody's day is low and you're going to bring them high. Somebody's feeling bad and you're going to make them feel good. You are important. You are valued. You are needed. So you got to show up. You got to be here. You have to be here, so you can't leave us. Yeah. You have to be here to hear me, to talk to me, to love me, to hug me, to discipline me, to anything, to do something, but be here for me. And that's what I expect of every Black man, every man who's watching. That's what we're here for, so you can't go. We have times when we're low, when we don't feel great about ourselves, but you pull up. Your value is immeasurable. Immeasurable. We don't succeed. We don't run without you. So you have to stay. So feel free to check the website. Listen, there's 2 seasons. There's some great episodes in there, but that's how I end every episode. If you got nothing else from just this conversation, understand your value and that we need you all the time for your guidance, for everything that you've learned from your experience, for not what you do, but for who you are.
Brother, every time we talk, we have such a deep conversation about these things. We dive deep, we dive way into these things, man. And I love it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's the purpose of having these conversations is to dive deeper into it, to bring a deeper meaning and understanding to the seriousness of the topics that we talk about, right? Men's mental health, especially when it comes down to Black men,
Yeah.
therapy, what it's like to show up in the world, raising children in our communities, how to show up for our family, friends, our spouses, things like that, man. How to do real topics, real problems, real challenges. I
Yes,
think
sir.
that's what we need in this world. You know what I'm saying? As always, Harvey, every time we talk, you show up, man. You
I
you show
appreciate
up, and I love that because you help me be present, and you inspire me. You inspire me to keep doing what I do, and as you say, and I'm just going to throw this back at you, man. We need you, right? We need you to show up. We need you to keep inspiring people, young people like myself, even though we are both the same age. You know what I'm saying? We need to inspire each other, to push each other to limits, to be better at helping our families grow and mature, to understand, bring awareness. And so as always, man, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for having such a great conversation. And thank you for the laughter, the knowledge, and the inspiration.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Let me
Oh,
know when we need to have another conversation. There's levels to this, man.
oh,
So
you already know.
yeah. So we know we could talk about this again. I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so
Well,
much.
like I said, man, I just started a new segment, right? So I call Talk About It Wednesdays, where, what I'm saying, I often say this to my guests, and I'm going to say it to you as well. If ever you have a topic that you would like to talk about, let me know, and we'll set it up on a Wednesday. And, we'll get people to come in and join in with us, have those questions ready for us. And, but it's your show. It's, what I'm saying, your topic, your conversation. I'm just along for the ride, as always, man. And for, Lakaya, thank you for following me over to the next episode and everything. Thank you for your support, continued support. I love that, and I love you as well. And for everyone else who's tuning in or will be tuning in, I'm Tony Lynch, and this is going to conclude another episode of Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. And as always, if you guys haven't already, go check out Harvey's channel. Go check out his podcast. Excellent work going on, especially the one Black Love, with his wife and everything. If you are a Black couple, it's going to be great. And do me a favor, if you haven't already, head over to that YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you be notified every time we drop a new episode. And as always, I appreciate you guys. And until next time, you guys keep your head up. We love you. And this is going to conclude another episode. Peace.